Over the last 3 decades, we've watched the man born Sean John Combs as he has reinvented himself and his name time and time again, each time with great success. We met him as Puff Daddy at Uptown Records, then as the brash, bold, and creative creator and CEO of Bad Boy. All the fly guys wore Sean John. All the fly girls drank Ciroc and De Leon. As players on the sideline, not in the game, unaware of what was really happening, we watched his ascension with awe. We applauded him. But those in the game witnessed a different type of ascension, or maybe descension. An escalation in violence towards women, violence in general, criminal activity, multiple accusations of murder for hire, either went unreported, underreported, or were flat out covered up. But with the filing of Cassandra Cassie Ventura's civil lawsuit in November of 2023, the velvet rope was opened and we got access to the VIP section. I don't know if I want it. I want it gone down an unexpectedly deep and very, very dark rabbit hole to bring to you today a timeline of the alleged crimes of Sean Love Combs. Welcome to Go Dutch TV. I'm Duchess, and this is Under the Influence.
Duchess said give y'all this disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. All statements and information relayed was obtained from various news and media outlets available on the internet and personal opinion. Law school never saw her, nor is she a journalist. Everything is alleged, or allegedly. Enjoy the video.
Before we dive into all of Diddy's dirty deeds, this is my second video, but this is the first episode of Under the Influence, where we cover celebrity court cases, civil and criminal, past and present. We also do have another show called Cases and Cocktails. There we focus on black and brown true crime stories. So if that is something that you're into, please help me to grow the channel. Become a part of the Royal Court. Subscribe, like. Let's talk about these cases in the comments, because listen, y'all could be helping to save a marriage. I think my husband really does believe I'm trying to kill him at this point. So if can we do that? That would be great. Thanks. I do feel obligated to give another disclaimer. Besides what that little girl has said, all of this is alleged. Law school did not see me. Outside of that though, I deal in facts. I want facts. I want logic. However, when it comes to Mr. Combs, so many things have been covered up. There have been a lot of payoffs. I feel that I do have to mention rumors, because it's appearing what we thought were rumors are fact, and they will definitely give context to a lot of what is going on currently with Sean Combs. Also, I'm gonna be calling this fool Diddy, okay? I ain't got time for all of them names he got. I'm gonna call him Diddy. Disclaimer over. With all that being said, grab a drink, get comfy, and let's catch this case. Because baby, it's actually, let's catch all of these cases from the 99s and the 2000s to current day. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. You don't have to have an adult beverage just because I'm having an adult beverage. But for this, you might want to do shots. There is no better place to start than at the beginning. And this villain's origin story began in New York, November 4th, 1969, when Diddy was born to parents Melvin and Janice Combs. From this point, it's weird. His backstory is very much giving 1930s movie studio, when they created backstories for their starlets and their leading men, but they were totally made up, and they would push them out in a press release. This beautiful farm girl was just discovered milking a cow one day. That's what Diddy's backstory is giving. On paper, Janice Combs was a model and a teacher's aide. I have not been able to find one single solitary picture that isn't her in her house or with her son. Maybe she was a model. That's what he says. She was pretty. Melvin Combs retired from the Air Force. Melvin Combs was also an associate of Frank Lucas. If you are familiar with Frank Lucas's story, or if you've seen the movie American Gangster, when Frank was portrayed by Denzel Washington, then you know Frank Lucas was a kingpin in New York, and he also used military planes to transfer his product, as I said. His dad retired from the Air Force and was an associate of Frank Lucas. When Diddy was 2 years old and in a car with his father was shot. His mother told him his dad died in a car accident. He was too young to remember. Following the death, Janice, the teacher's assistant and model with no portfolio, moved to the suburbs, put Diddy in private school in Mount Vernon, where he excelled. He was an altar boy. He graduated with honors, and he went on to Howard University in D.C. The summer of Diddy's freshman year, he went back home to Mount Vernon, and he linked up with his old childhood friend, Heavy D. Heavy D had just signed with Uptown Records, and he wanted to take his boy over to Uptown, see the studio, see the building, and meet the owner, Andre Harrell. The rest is history. Diddy became an intern for the rest of the summer. When he returned to campus that fall for his sophomore year, he actually went into New York 2 days a week to still work as Andre's intern. But it started to be too much for him. He said, I think I might have to quit. Andre countered with a job offer. Diddy accepted. He dropped out of college, and now he was working at Uptown Records. Within 3 years, he was VP. The year was 1990 that Diddy began at Uptown. 1991, he got his first class action lawsuit, the tragedy at City College of New York. Diddy co-promoted a celebrity basketball game at City College of New York. The gym had a capacity of 2,730. 5,000 people showed up. At 5,000, security decided to close the doors. The crowd said, get somebody else to do it, and bum rushed the door, causing a stampede that killed 9 people and injured 29. Both Heavy D and Diddy were sued. This was 1991. The last case was not settled until 2000, but all cases were settled in favor of the plaintiffs. 1991 is also the year that Diddy caught 2 of his current civil lawsuits. The first is an unknown victim who alleged in 1990 or 91 Diddy and Aaron Hall assaulted she and her friend. They went from room to room and took turns, according to her, after an industry event. And he then beat her several days later when she confronted him about the incident. The second lawsuit that was also filed in November 2023 is alleged to also have happened in 1991. This is the case of a then 19-year-old Joy Dickerson, who alleges that Diddy drugged her when she went on a date with him, assaulted her, and proceeded to show the video to Jodeci and others. Fast forwarding to 1995, Diddy is now the CEO of Bad Boy, and he has the Notorious B.I.G. and Craig Mack both tearing up the charts. But something happens between he and Craig Mack. Diddy appears to have a little bitty control issue, and he wanted, according to Craig Mack, in his own words, in multiple interviews that he's done, he stated Diddy wanted him to fire his manager and hire Diddy's manager. And Craig Mack was like, well, no, why would I do that? Diddy says, you could do it or you could not be putting out music. According to Craig Mack, he started to hear rumors that Diddy was about to take him out. He decided to protect himself. He got a gun and he carried it at all times. This may sound familiar. He gets a call from Diddy, and Diddy really wants him to come to the studio, and he got an odd feeling. He decided, I'm gonna go, but I'm taking my gun and I'm taking my goons. So he shows up at the studio with his gun and his goons, and the urgency that Diddy presented in the phone call was all of a sudden gone. He felt the tension when he walked into the room, but the people with him calmed that right on down. Nothing happened. I mentioned this situation even though it was not a case and nothing happened, because as we progress, you will see Diddy's progression. Dude is dead ass out of control. Have you seen Get Him to the Greek? The character he played? Is that him in real life? I feel like that's him in real life. What was being presented to the public at that time was Diddy dancing in videos. But Craig Mack said that he was so fearful for his life, he contemplated just shooting Diddy first and getting it out of the way. The dancing Diddy that we knew was not the Diddy that his first artist knew. That is why this is definitely worth mentioning. Do you know what happened the year before? Tupac was shot visiting a studio that he was invited to by Puffy. Tupac's story never changed. At the time, I was a teenager when this happened. I was a fan of both Tupac and Biggie. And when Tupac said he thought Diddy was behind him being shot, I did not believe it. He was just dancing as him, as want to be in the camera as Diddy to me. However, now, girl, he did that shit. According to Tupac, he was invited to the studio by Puffy and Biggie. He was then accosted when he got there by some men who shot only him, even though he showed up with 2 other people. He went up to the studio, and when he walked in, he says, Biggie, Puffy, and Andre Harrell were all in the studio with others, and everyone looked shocked to see him, even though he'd just gotten off the phone with them and said he was on the way. He was under the impression from that they weren't surprised to see him. They were surprised to see him alive. 1 year later, we have Craig Mack in a similar situation. What did he know that made him so afraid to go to a studio with Diddy without a gun and armed guards? Another thing happened in 1995, a moment that will forever live in hip-hop history. The 1995 Source Awards. Suge Knight took the stage and said, if anybody want to do records and not have the executive producer all in the video dancing, come to Death Row. I know y'all remember that. That started, I'm not going to say it started it, but it was when we were 100% aware something ain't clean in the buttermilk. 1 month after Suge Knight dropped his nuts on Diddy's forehead and just drug him back like he was scalping him, in September of 1995, Jermaine Dupri had his birthday party at a club in Atlanta, and Diddy came down to turn up. Diddy, his bodyguard Wolf, JD, Dallas Austin, and Too Short were chilling at Platinum City before the party began. Suge Knight and his entourage, which included Jake Robles, Big Jake, his friend and security guard. According to people who were with Diddy, this is what happened. Suge spots them. He walks up to the booth where they're sitting, and Jermaine Dupri and the rest of the group stand. Jermaine is in front. Diddy is behind him. According to Mark Curry, Suge just pimp slaps Jermaine Dupri. not out of anger, but to literally move his little body out of the way. Now, he could have picked that man up. He's very small. He's a petite little fella. He didn't have to slap that man. He could have just moved him. Suge big. He didn't have to do that. But that's the course of action that he decided to take. So he didn't just slap poor little JD down to the ground and yanked up Diddy like a bad dog. Of course, a scuffle ensues. It's broken up. They go outside. While they're outside, they talk it out. Diddy and Suge, man to man. This was witnessed. They shake hands, dap it out. Meanwhile, across the street, directly across the street, someone starts shooting. Unrelated to them, possibly. In the melee, someone approaches Big Jake from behind, takes him out. It is alleged by members of Diddy's own entourage that the shooting across the street may have been a distraction, and it was Wolf who walked up to Suge's best friend and shot him from behind. Big Jake died weeks later at an Atlanta hospital. Diddy, of course, denied all involvement, and y'all, when I tell y'all his version of events are nothing at all like anybody else's version of events. One person in his entourage wrote a book. There are multiple accounts of this story that are all the same. The only one that is different is Diddy's. Apparently, he was just blind to everything. Jermaine didn't get slapped. Him and Suge didn't have an altercation. None of the things happened. But now we do know Diddy be lying. 1996. I found one thing in 96, and I actually found it on the BBC. We know that they are reputable, but for me not to be able to find anything from United States press, but the BBC had this, I don't know what to make of that. I was not able to find any corroborating stories. I am including this only because the BBC, they kind of be on it. So I'm going to put this in, do with it what you will. But according to the BBC, in 1996, Diddy was found guilty of criminal mischief for threatening a photographer from the New York Post with a gun. I don't know why that's not in the New York Post, but we know Diddy got bread. At this point, you can tell me that Diddy bought an orphanage full of babies and turned them into kittens. And I'd be like, yeah, did that shit. I could see him doing black magic. I could see it. September 13th, 1996. Does that date ring a bell? Tupac Shakur was murdered. And it appears Diddy was 100% behind it. Dwayne Davis, aka Keefy D. He is a high-ranking member of the Southside Crips, who are, of course, the mortal enemies of the Bloods. We know 95, 96, Diddy definitely had beef with Suge Knight. But according to Diddy, him and Suge are friends and there's never been any problems. How and ever, even though there were no problems, he had a problem coming to LA or sending his artists to LA without Crip security. Why did it have to be Crip security if you don't have beef with the Blood? But that's what he says. So, Eric Von Zip, he went by Von Zip. He is a gang member who is very closely tied to Bad Boy. He is the godfather of one of Biggie's children, and he was the middleman that connected Diddy with this high-ranking member of the Southside Crips, Keefy D. Things go along just fine with Diddy using these Crips for security when he's in California. But something happens at an award show that pushes this tragedy forward. Diddy's on the stage. As he's ending his show, Tupac, Suge Knight, and according to reports, around 50 Bloods stand in the crowd at the same time and start walking very, very briskly to the stage. and Diddy got him ass up and off that stage with a quickness. After that, according to Keefe D, he got a phone call from Diddy. He said Suge has to go, 500 grand. And there was another call that said, I will give you $1 million for Suge and Tupac. Keefe D said, okay. September 13th, 1996, there was a big fight in Vegas. Tupac and Suge were there. Keefe D was there, as well as his nephew and fellow Crip Orlando Anderson, who went by Baby Lane. Eric Von Zip was also in Vegas. Even though Keefe D accepted this hit on Tupac and Suge Knight, there was not a date yet set. He was really, according to him, in Vegas to have a good time. He didn't even have a gun that night. But what happened was Orlando, Baby Lane, was allegedly a part of a clique that had, in previous weeks, stolen a death row chain from Tupac. When Tupac saw him in the lobby at the MGM, we get this infamous video that we've probably all seen a million times of Tupac and his entourage just monkey stomping Orlando Anderson. Once he pulled himself up off the ground, he called his uncle, Keefe D. And Keefe D said, well, I guess the time is now and the place is here. But he didn't have a gun. So he reached out to the middleman, Eric Von Zip. And Eric Von Zip comes with the weapons. Suge and Tupac get in the car, leaving the venue. Keefe D and the people he was in the car with, which included his nephew, Baby Lane, in the back seat, they're riding around looking for Tupac and Suge. They actually found them because, according to Keefe D, they heard a girl screaming Tupac's name as the car passed. That's how they knew what vehicle Tupac and Suge were in. They followed the car, they pulled up next to it, and according to Keefe D, he didn't want to shoot over the driver because he was on the passenger side. His gun would have been in the face of the person driving the car. So he attempted to give the gun to the person sitting behind the driver. And that person said, oh, hell no. But his nephew said, oh, I got it, and proceeded to lean over the person next to him and shoot out the window into Suge and Tupac's vehicle multiple times. Tupac died. Later, Keefe D says he received a phone call. He actually says he received 2 phone calls. They both asked the same question. Was that us? His answer both times was yes. The first phone call was from Sean Combs. And according to Keefe D, the second call asking, was that us? It was from Faith Evans. Because Suge was still in the land of the living, Puff said $500,000. The money was given to Eric Von Zip, and he was to distribute it. What happened instead is, according to Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, and others who have done multiple interviews, they all claim they saw a check for $500,000 given to Eric Von Zip. Others have said that he showed them the check the day that he got it. What he did was not give the money to Keefe D. He ran off and opened him up a nightclub called Zip Code that he ran until he himself was murdered. Also murdered were all 3 occupants of the vehicle that Keefe D was in. He was the last man standing, and somewhere along the line, he was offered a proffer deal. Have you guys heard of a proffer offer before? Or queen for a day? That is when federal prosecutors, the feds, offer you a deal to get information, and they agree to not prosecute you for any crimes that you admit to while you're giving them this information. They really wanted information from him, and they were willing to give him this queen for a day status. And he told them what happened. Many years later, Keffe D was arrested for the murder of Tupac. So you're probably asking, if he got a queen for a day, how could he be arrested for murdering Tupac? The feds kept up their end of the deal. His diarrhea of the mouth ass did not. His deal was with the feds. He went on to write a whole book and go on and just tell the world, and the state saw it. He was arrested on state charges. I mean, he really just told on himself. We would know nothing were it not for Keffe D. I am so upset. Let me just say, I am pissed. Diddy can't rap 2 bars with a gun to his head. He can't write a rhyme to save his mama life. Can't play a key on a keyboard. Don't even know how to work a mixing board. And he took, child, get out of my face. Sorry, I'm self-soothing. One moment. March 9th, 1997, the murder of the notorious B.I.G., Christopher Wallace. This one really took me. I didn't believe before that Diddy had anything to do with Tupac being murdered. Y'all please let me know what you think about it in the comments. I think I've made my feelings very clear. When it came to Biggie, it was a real hard and swift no for me. Why in the world would he kill his cash cow? Tell me what you guys think about this once I let you know what I've dug up. At this point, I feel like I need to cut this man a check. But according to Gene Deal, prior to the murder of Biggie, he got word from, according to him, a very reputable source, more than one reputable source, letting him know there are rumblings in the streets of a hit being out on Biggie. So he took this information straight to Diddy. According to Gene Deal and another of Diddy's bodyguards, and I'm so mad I do not have a note with this man's name. Also, according to Mark Curry, all 3 of them say that Biggie was not even supposed to be in LA on that day. That night, he was scheduled to fly to London for an international press junket, gearing up for the release of his second album, Life After Death. Ready to Die had been a smashing success in the US. It had also had success overseas, but Biggie himself had not been formally introduced to the European market. So this was going to be his debut. There were media outlets from all over Europe coming to London for this press junket for Biggie, and he was to fly out that night. According to Gene Deal, when Diddy found out, because Biggie did have his own management team, which we know that's a problem, and when he found out, he blew a gasket. Diddy reached out to Biggie's management team and tried to get them to cancel the trip so that he could attend an award show in LA and then go to a party afterward. They decided to absolutely not cancel the trip, but because Diddy was losing his ever-loving mind and he was probably scared they was going to get knocked over the head with a Ciroc bottle. Did he have Ciroc yet? A Moet bottle. They thought they was going to get busted in the head with something. They just kept it a secret that he was still going to London and said, you go ahead to this award show event, and once it's done, you hop on the plane and you're going to London. All is well. Gene Deal has relayed this information, and Puffy is not bothered. He's very much given, I ain't even worried about that. Gene is like, sir, but this is his boss. He lets it go as is. They attend the award show, and it's then that Puffy finds out Biggie is going to be leaving immediately after. In front of everyone, he calls Biggie's management team, and he is cussing everybody out, calling everybody everything but a child of God. That is so weird coming from the head of a label This is a big deal for your artists, for you not to want them to do this and instead go to a party when they leave. According to Gene Deal, Puffy has his driver blowing through red lights, driving like he's scared and knows something is coming. As it's happening, Gene Deal is just getting "this is weird" after the fact that hindsight kicked in. His hindsight let him know Biggie was murdered. Puffy was uninjured. 2 hours later, he was on a plane. Y'all, Biggie was my favorite rapper. I feel away right now. Y'all, let's talk about it in the comments. What y'all think? April 16th, 1999. Diddy is arrested and charged with 2 felonies, second-degree assault and criminal mischief in relation to the beating of record executive Steve Stout. According to Steve Stout, Diddy and 2 bodyguards bum rushed him in his office and proceeded to Diddy punch him in the face, and once he hit the ground, the 3 of them beat him with their fists, a telephone, a champagne bottle, and a chair. Do y'all know what caused this? The Diddy and Nas video, Hate Me Now. If you guys remember this video, Diddy and Nas are giving our Lord and Savior on the cross. They thought it was a real good idea. Before the video was released, he talked to his mama and his pastor and Jesus. After the idea was presented, storyboards were laid out, and the entire video was shot, he decided, you know what, I think this might be bad. It may be a little blasphemous. So he reached out to Steve Stout and he's like, I need you to put a halt to this. We're going to have to redo the video. And Steve Stout says, I'll see what I can do, but this is scheduled for an MTV premiere, but I'll see what I can do. Well, show as shit stank. MTV was like, yeah, we're premiering this. And they were not about to reshoot another video. So the video aired. And when the video aired, boom, here come Diddy and his bodyguards going upside this man's head with a champagne bottle. Didn't I tell y'all it was Moet or something? Champagne bottle, telephone, chair, fists, and feet. The assault charges were dropped. The case was dismissed after Diddy paid Steve Stout allegedly $500,000. December 27th, 1999. Club New York. This was the Jenny from the Block days. Y'all remember this? So I'm going to give you the official version, and then I'm going to tell you what Shine and one of the victims say happened. On paper, Diddy, his then girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, and new up-and-coming rapper who freshly signed to Bad Boy, Jamal Barrow, aka Shine, attend a party at Club New York in New York. Diddy knocks a drink out of someone's hand, and this causes an argument. He actually knocks a drink out of Matthew Allen, aka Scar's, hand. According to Shine, he knew Scar and his crew. They were cool, but he knew that they were about that mess. As the situation escalates, someone threw a stack of money into Diddy's face. Now it's up. On paper, amid the fray, all 3 men drew guns and Shine shot 3 times in the crowded club. 3 people were shot. Combs was arrested with 2 9mm guns in his car, and he was charged with 4 weapons charges. Shine, however, was charged with attempted murder. He was acquitted of that, but was found guilty of assault. According to Shine, according to one of the victims, Diddy was the one who was shooting. According to ballistics, Diddy was definitely shooting. What Shine says happens is there was an altercation with Scar. He walked up to Diddy because even though he didn't have beef with Scar, he knew Scar and his crew. He knew how they got down, and he knew if they said they're going to do something, it's going to happen. And he heard Scar say, something to the effect of I will end you. So he went to back Puffy up. As it escalates, guns are drawn, and Shine does say he was pushed or tackled, and at some point he did fire and it went into the ceiling. It is worth mentioning that Shine had a different weapon than Diddy did. This story is so convoluted, even some of the news reports are false as fuck. But thank you, Freedom of Information Act, we can pull up actual reports and statements and get the real deal Holyfield, because the press or Diddy's checkbook has definitely dirtied the waters with this story. Diddy was not the one with the 9mm. It was Shine. The bullet casings were for a 40mm, which Shine did not have. When the shooting erupted, of course, everyone scattered. Puffy's entourage bodyguard grabbed he and J-Lo, rushed them to the waiting SUV. Shine ran from the club on foot and was apprehended with his gun in hand. Diddy, what somehow is in none of these reports in the news, hops in his car with his girlfriend and his bodyguard and the driver and proceeds to go on a 20-block high-speed chase with the police, within which they witness a gun fly out of one of the fucking windows, bitch. Natanya Rubin, my apologies if I am mispronouncing her name. She was a victim in the Club New York shooting, shot in her face. At the time, according to Miss Natanya, she wasn't even clubbing. She had been recently saved. She was an entrepreneur that was extremely well known in her community. She was a mother that owned multiple beauty salons. She and her employees fed the homeless, gave out Christmas gifts, all of the things. She was well known. She was well respected. And even though she'd been saved and wasn't out in them people's streets like that anymore, she went to Club New York to support another entrepreneur friend that was a party promoter. According to her, she watched Puffy pull the gun and shoot her in her face. She says she said it at the hospital. She said it to police. But for whatever reason, by the time it made it to trial, the trial was something else. At trial, the driver of the vehicle that Diddy, J-Lo, and his bodyguard were in, he testified that Diddy tried to offer him money, $50,000, that night to take one of the guns or say the guns belonged to him, and he refused. He stated this on the stand. Also, let's not forget, and it was mentioned in court, that Diddy went on a 20-block high-speed chase and chunked a whole ass weapon out the window. One of his charges was possession of a firearm. He was even found not guilty of that charge, even though the police testified to a gun being chucked out of his window and finding guns in his car. He was acquitted even of having a weapon. Let me please not forget to mention that his lead attorney was Johnny Cochran. His second chair, I do not have his name, my apologies, but he is a very well-known attorney who represents mafia bosses. That's how he made his name. So that was the team, the little dream team that he put together for himself, whereas Shine's lawyer, they might have found him a number on the back of a Cracker Jack box, because Shine says he went to the judge himself. He was like, my lawyer is not doing his job and I need help. Nothing came of that. Diddy's attorneys also produced some witnesses that were willing to say not only did Diddy not have a gun, but they saw with their own eyes Shine shooting up everybody. One of the victims, Natanya Rubin, she has maintained from day one Diddy shot her. She told it to police when she was questioned. She said it over and over. But with her conversations with authorities, it became apparent to her they didn't want to hear anything about Diddy. They were letting her know without saying the words, we're not going for Diddy. What about Shine? What did you see him do? After the trial, even though Diddy was acquitted of all charges and Shine was convicted and went on to serve 10 years in prison, she was contacted by authorities. I believe she said the district attorney's office reached out to her and let her know that they had received information that appeared to be very valid, and $150,000 had been placed on her head. So while she had built a life, a community, and did amazing things for her community in New York, this mom, this entrepreneur, this black businesswoman who was doing big things and was well loved, because she said Diddy shot me, everyone turned on her. A hit was put out on her, and the authorities moved she and her family in the dead of night from the place that she loved. March 2001. Roger Mills. He filed a suit against Diddy accusing him of assault, false imprisonment, destruction of property, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and a civil conspiracy. His claim is that during the interview he was conducting with Diddy, he asked Diddy about rumors that he had something to do with Biggie being killed. And Diddy got very upset and ended the interview. There was no problem, or so he thought. But Diddy came back and said, you know what? I want the tape. And he said, absolutely not. Diddy's entourage proceeded to hold him against his will, rough him up, beat him up a little bit, cute little 1-2 uppercut and all of that, destroyed the tape and the camera. And when he attempted to file charges, according to the Detroit Police Department, there was evidence that this assault did take place, but he was not able to identify who it was that attacked him because he didn't know them. He knew who Diddy was. And of course, they weren't talking. So he was, of course, left with no recourse except to file a civil suit, which he did, and he won. There are no activities to report in 2003 except a new case that has been filed against him, a civil suit. This one came in December of 2023. This victim alleges that when she was 17 years old in Detroit, out and about, she encountered Harve Pierre, who was an associate and former Bad Boys president. She alleges that she was initially assaulted by Harve Pierre before being put on a private jet, flown to New York to Diddy's studio, where she was then gang assaulted by Harve Pierre, Diddy, and a third man who, as of yet, we do not know his identity. According to the lawsuit, the victim was then half carried, half drugged back to the private jet, barely able to walk, extremely drugged, and she was flown back to Detroit. Also in 2005, Diddy got another lawsuit that wasn't so horrendous. He went from P. Diddy to just Diddy, and he didn't check first. Come to find out, there was a producer in the UK by the name of Richard Diddy Dearlove that had been using that name, and he sued. After a legal battle, there was a £100,000 settlement in September of 2006. When Diddy is in the UK, he is P. Diddy. That man is Diddy over there. February 2006, Cassandra Cassie Ventura signs a 10-album deal with Bad Boy. We know what happens after that. March 6, 2007. Gerard Ragnitzer alleges that Diddy punched him, punched his girl, tried to spit in another woman's face outside of Teddy's nightclub at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. No charges were brought. The case was settled for an undisclosed amount. Of course, his attorney says it's just another example of an opportunist seeking to fabricate a lawsuit based on a flat-out lie to try to take advantage of Mr. Combs's celebrity status. This is the same recycled story that they threw on Miss Natanya when she sued for being shot in her face. Yeah, she was an opportunist also, according to them. If we look at any of the statements that his attorneys have released, even though these are all new attorneys, they're really all saying the same thing. Everybody just trying to get this man money. But it seemed like this man trying to get everybody either beat up or dead. May 11th, 2007, a complaint was filed with the police against Sean Diddy Combs by Lorianne Gibson. This incident happened while filming Making the Band, and she was a co-star on the show. She was the choreographer. A lot of you probably remember this. Diddy threatened her with a chair, and New Edition member Michael Bivins, with his uncle looking ass. Hasn't he looked like an uncle since he was a child, just young with an old man face? Well, his old man face ass allegedly held her in place so that Diddy could threaten her with a chair. Diddy's attorney states that Gibson overreacted to theatrics performed for the cameras. That's a new one. Even now, this is what he says, even though sources told the New York Daily News that Diddy yelled at the cameraman, turn the cameras off. But according to the lawyer, this was just like some play acting. It was a script she didn't know about. It was for play. Also in 2007, a nightclub promoter sued Diddy, alleging that Diddy had his bodyguard forcibly remove him from the club. He says that he was punched, kicked, and chased around this nightclub. He sued Diddy for $4 million. I was unable to find a resolution to this case. We're all very familiar, I'm sure, with Cassie's lawsuit. And something in her lawsuit happened right around this time. We're in 2012 now. There was a fight with Kid Cudi in November of 2012, allegedly over Cassie. Reports went around at this time that Kid Cudi and Diddy exchanged heated words to the point that the entire club was watching. Later on, we know that Diddy, I'm not even going to say allegedly because Kid Cudi said this is true, Diddy blew that boy car up, child, in his driveway. I don't know if this incident with Kid Cudi in 2012 just got his little motor rumbling. But in 2013, he went on to have an alleged scuffle with J. Cole at an MTV VMA after party. And then in 2014, he allegedly punched Drake. Then in 2015, he assaulted a UCLA assistant football coach. This guy was a coach for his son, Justin Combs. He was then a player at UCLA. And the coach reportedly told Justin something to the effect of like, I don't care if your daddy here, you still gonna have to do what you gotta do. Diddy got upset. He grabbed up the coach and he threw a dumbbell at somebody. According to Mr. Combs' attorney, the various accounts of the event and charges that are being reported are wholly inaccurate. What we can say now is that any actions taken by Mr. Combs were solely defensive in nature to protect himself and his son. The LADA decided not to file assault charges. I'm willing to bet he cut a big old check to UCLA, to the coach, to the assistant that got the dumbbell chunked at their head. Everybody got paid that day. Now here we are in 2017 and Diddy gets another lawsuit. This lawsuit was filed by his former personal chef, a Miss Cindy Reda. She sued him for sexual harassment, retaliation, defamation, failure to pay overtime, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The lawsuit was settled for an undisclosed amount in February 2019, nearly 2 years later. What she alleged in her lawsuit is that she was paid $150 a day to be Diddy's personal chef, but she worked from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. No overtime, which is where the failure to pay overtime and intentional infliction of emotional distress, because he was really on some sweatshop type activity. And I did not mention he did have some sweatshop allegations when he had Sean John. No cases were ever filed or anything, so I didn't include that. But I can believe it after how he was working Miss Cindy in this kitchen, child. Miss Cindy also says that the sexual harassment comes in because Diddy would often have her prepare and serve food for him and his guests, mostly male, during or immediately following sexual encounters. So she would have to serve him and his male guests in his bedroom while they were actively getting booty or right when they finished getting booty. She also says that on more than one occasion, his guests have come out of his room buck booty naked and tried to come on to her, ask her to look, examine, and report on the appearance of their penis, tried to put their penis on her, and he has done some of the same things. So she sued him as she should have, and she won. 2019, we met Miss Gina Wynn. I hope that I am saying her name correctly. We're gonna call her Miss Gina. Gina was an ex-girlfriend of Diddy who claims that he physically abused her throughout their 5-year relationship. She says that he stumped her on her stomach, he's punched her in the back of her head, and this is in an interview that she did with Tasha K. She stated he was mentally, emotionally, and physically abusive, and he would always compare me to Cassie and tell me that I'm the bad one, she's a good one. She also said that everyone in Combs' circle allowed the abuse to occur, and those sentiments were echoed in Cassie's lawsuit. 2021. At a pre-Grammy party that was held by Clive Davis, Diddy made a cute little speech about how the Academy had not been recognizing and showing appreciation to hip-hop and R&B. Mace was like, "Oh yeah, can you show some appreciation and pay your artists?" And he proceeded to put him on blast. Now, this is nothing new. The Lox did it back in the day on the radio, live on the radio. We know he has unfair business practices. That is established. That is not even alleged. That's just what Diddy do. So perhaps some of Mace's Jesus juice got on Diddy, but in 2023, Diddy changed his middle name from John to Love, and he had him a brown sugar moment, and he went to the hood like the musical Grinch, giving all of his artists their publishing back. We should have known it was for something. And in November 2023, we found out what that something might be. But you know what else happened in 2023? Around the time that he started giving this publishing back, and this is just hitting me. This is when Keefe D was also arrested. Maybe he's trying to play nice for a multitude of reasons. But Cassie files her lawsuit. This lawsuit, I 100% believe that lady. We know the details of the suit. We are not going to get into all of the salaciousness, but there are some points that I want to make. First of all, let me start at the beginning. Diddy was not her boyfriend. Diddy was her captor. I 100% believe her story. And Diddy pulled an Aaron Hall and he took her. If you've ever heard Aaron Hall tell the story of how he got with Gloria Velez, his baby mama that he met when she was 17 years old, like, is that how you start a relationship? I don't know if that's what y'all doing in these people's streets. I'm married. I'm gonna try to stay like that because, child, girl, what? The same thing happened with Cassie. She was with Ryan Leslie, the producer. He's the one that was managing her, writing her songs, doing her music, and introduced her to Diddy. I'm not going to give Ryan Leslie too much grace for getting his girlfriend stole, because Diddy was introduced to Cassie when she was 19 years old. She had already been in a 3-year relationship with Ryan Leslie. He was grown as a mother. He was in his late 20s. He got with her when she was 16, 17. So he was a whole ass predator himself. Ryan Leslie called her a social experiment. Let's do something on MySpace and see what happened. And it blew up. He introduces her to Diddy. Diddy wanted her. According to the lawsuit, he forcibly kissed her on her birthday. She cried. She was not attracted to him. I mean, we've seen Diddy. When she met Diddy, this was when Diddy was in the days where he couldn't close his mouth. He hadn't had that Invisalign and that dental work yet. His mouth was just never closed. So he wasn't cute. He was not cute. He had money, but she was not attracted to him. She saw him as a mentor and an older guy. Over time, he had a Miami promoter create a fake flyer for a fake event, send it to her as an excuse for her to get her down to Miami. And when he had her in Miami, they did a whole lot of drugs, drank a whole lot of liquor, and day 3 of that trip, they had sex while she is incredibly doped up. And after that, he was like, we go together real bad. It seems from her lawsuit that he was a cuckold. Are you guys familiar with that? Those are the people who like to watch their significant other being made love to by somebody else. The problem is she did not volunteer and she was not down with this. He called them freak-offs. Cassie filed this lawsuit requesting a jury trial. A jury was going to pay her handsomely for her pain. She didn't want to put a dollar amount on it. This is what I went through. You tell me what he ought to pay me. I believe that he was not only having her sleep with sex workers, however, because of an interview that 50 Cent did with DJ Woo Kid, is it Shady? Whatever the radio station is. He did this back in 2010. These photos, explicit photos of Cassie, were leaked in early 2010. And he says to DJ Woo Kid, yeah, I got some pictures too, but they are not like the pictures y'all got. It was penetration. It wasn't naked pictures. And when he received these pictures of Cassie in sex acts, he reached out to Puffy. He was like, is this your girl? Like, you really like her? Like, y'all together? And he was like, yeah. 50 says, I'm going to send you something. And he sends him the pictures. He says, Diddy calls him back and he's like, man, how did you get those? But 50 says he got the impression that Diddy is the one who leaked the photos. I'm going to paraphrase what he said. I thought it was Diddy that did it because, you know, it seemed like it was on some get back. A guy who your girl has moved on to somebody else. But Puff ain't no slouch. Those were his exact words. Puff ain't no slouch. Who was the man in the picture? Why would Diddy be jealous of a sex worker? That's not someone that 50 would even recognize. Cassie mentioned sex workers in her lawsuit. Diddy thought all those bodies, that shame and guilt would keep her mouth shut. She put it on Front Street. If she put that on Front Street and he settled, less than 24 hours later, you know she's holding some stuff close to the vest. And I firmly believe the sex workers may have been for his own enjoyment. They also may have been for promotion. People bigger than him, more money than him, more power than him, more status than him, that had access to Cassie and other women that he dealt with. What happened on her birthday? When she speaks of having a dinner party with her friends present and they're doing karaoke, and during this party, Diddy forces her to a freak off. That let me know he's actually evil. He's evil. Diddy sat watching Cassie being loved on and celebrated. That was the sole purpose of him forcing her to a freak off on her birthday. She felt good. That spirit couldn't take it. He was definitely born on either the 3rd or 4th circle of hell. This We've already discussed several of Diddy's current active civil suits in the order that they occurred. But now that we are in 2023, when somebody's ancestor or maybe somebody named was like, everything that happens in the dark must come to the light, sunshine, the light is here. Diddy set a new record, I'm sure, settling a case in less than 24 hours. And for you guys to know just how unusual that is, a case is filed. It's not even until 72 hours later that it is like official and the other party is even served. Diddy settled before he even was served. Following Cassie's suit, we have the first Jane Doe, who filed suit 5 days later for the 1991 Heavy D days. She was a former Syracuse University college student. She went on a date with Diddy, and allegedly he drugged her, R-worded her, recorded it, and then began showing it to other people. She alleges he took her to dinner, then to the recording studio where the assault occurred. She said that she was in a physical state afterward that she could not independently stand or walk. Days later, a friend revealed to her that he had viewed the sex tape along with other men. A representative for Combs has denied the allegations, calling them a money grab in a statement to TMZ. Of course, it's a money grab. The third lawsuit that he received in 1 week came just a couple days later. This allegedly occurred in 90 or 91, again, Heavy D days. This is the victim that alleges she and a friend met Diddy and singer-songwriter Aaron Hall, his rapey ass. She says that she was drugged, she and her friend, and Aaron Hall and Diddy went from room to room, taking turns doing what they wanted to do to she and her friend. Jane Doe filed on December 6th. She claims that when she was 17, she was gang R-worded by Combs, bad boy president Harvey Pierre, and another man. We don't know who the third man is, but they believe that they will be able to get that information. She alleges that they plied her with copious amounts of drugs and alcohol before the assault took place. She was in and out of consciousness. She would raise her head and look in the mirror and see another person there. For the last assault, the door was open and Diddy was sitting in a chair watching and pleasuring himself. The last lawsuit came this year. This lawsuit, I hope Lil Rod wins. Rodney Lil Rod Jones. He is suing for $30 million for sexual assault. I believe the things that he said, but his filing is rather ridiculous. His attorneys and whatever writer they hired to draft his complaint, they definitely went the gossip media takeout shade room route. There is so much in this lawsuit that is irrelevant, and it is nothing but tabloid fodder. We're 60 pages into his lawsuit before we even get to what Diddy did him. This dude is just telling everything he ever saw, ever heard, might have heard, what a shadow told him, something the wind said. He is just telling all of the things that have nothing to do with what happened to him. I do believe that this man was violated. I believe Cuba Gooding is a creeper. He just wrote a tell-all in the form of a lawsuit. Now ain't nobody gonna buy your book. I'm not gonna buy your book. But back to Diddy and his unfair business practices, Lil Rod does say that for producing 9 songs on the Love album, Diddy offered to pay him $29,000. I know less about music than Diddy does, but I'm thinking you're probably getting jacked if you're getting paid $29,000 for 9 songs. And that's how Lil Rod felt. He came back with $50,000 and Diddy said no. We would not know about the shooting that happened at his studio. We wouldn't know about Carisha being on payroll. We wouldn't know about how Diddy is promising people Grammys for giving up their little booty hole. We wouldn't know any of those things if that man would have just gave Lil Rod $50,000. Well, since Diddy wanted to be stingy with his little coin, we now know a lot of things. Going all the way back to Shine and the Club New York shooting. According to Lil Rod, Diddy told him, I did that. We also wouldn't know about a shooting that allegedly occurred at Diddy's studio in 2022. According to Lil Rod, there was a shooting inside of a restroom in Diddy's studio. One of Diddy's sons was arguing with his friend. Diddy, the son, and the friend went into the restroom. The argument continued. There was a gunshot. Diddy came out of the bathroom, began giving cleanup orders, got the gunshot victim in front of the studio. The next day, reports were a robbery and shooting occurred outside of Diddy's studio. Lil Rod, however, did take pictures and included them in his lawsuit. I'm pretty sure Lil Friend got him a real nice check, but I hope if the feds come calling, he opens his mouth. NDAs do not cover criminal activity. So we've discussed all of Diddy's many court cases. I want to touch on a couple things that are not found in any court documents. The first of which is the death of one Shakir Stewart. Shakir Stewart was an ex of Kim Porter. They reportedly dated after she and Diddy separated. There are accounts given by Diddy's former bodyguards that state Diddy invited Shakir Stewart to a party on his yacht. He was senior vice president for Island Def Jam Music Group. So it wouldn't have been unusual for him to be invited to a Diddy party. He was working under L.A. Reid. They ran in the same circles, but he shows up to this party and is escorted to a room where Diddy and his entourage proceed to lay hands and feet on Shakir. Also on this yacht, allegedly, Kim Porter was punched in the face and her nose broken. Diddy flew in a plastic surgeon to his yacht to perform a nose job on Kim Porter. Later, after Shakir and Kim are no longer together, Shakir, according to his family and friends, started to act weird, saying that he thought he was being followed, that maybe his phone was tapped. And one day, even though he had just been promoted to the senior vice president of Island Def Jam Music Group, he deleted himself. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Also, Kim Porter. She was healthy. We know that she reportedly had cold or flu-like symptoms in the days preceding her death, but the day before she died, she was feeling fine. Her temperature was normal. She watched a movie with her kids. All was well. The next day, she told a friend that there was blood in her phlegm, but she felt great. She was going to lie down. That was sunset. An autopsy was performed. The findings were not released until 5 months later. According to her autopsy report, Kim died of lobar pneumonia. Because it took 5 months for the report to be released, somebody close to her was suspicious and they put pressure on the coroner's office. A separate investigation was opened to investigate why it took 5 months to find out what her cause of death was. The LA coroner that was assigned to the investigation also died suddenly right after being assigned the case. And I feel a way about putting Shakir and Kim in this video, but it's out there. March 25th, 2024. Homeland Security investigations raid 2 of Diddy's homes in LA and Miami. His LA home is actually in the same neighborhood as the Playboy Mansion. This order came from the Southern District of New York, and apparently HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, their specialty is sex trafficking. So we know why they were there, but what they found. I do believe that a whole lot of information is going to come out in this investigation. What I don't know at all is how this is going to turn out. Diddy has shown that he is slicker than a can of oil. Will he take his lick, or will he pull down everyone with him? He's going down. The question is, for how long and for what? In closing, our first episode of Under the Influence is done. Cheers. Please, you guys, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things. Let's talk about it down in the comments. And also, do y'all think that like all of the people in the Fed prisons right now are like hoping Diddy comes to their jail? I think all of the federal prisoners are really hoping they get Diddy. Do you know how lit the prison parties are about to be at whatever federal penitentiary Diddy lands at? He is about to have the prettiest boys in their tighty whities for dancing and impossible freak-offs. Probably gonna have them doing massages and stuff. He's going to have the best toilet wine of any penitentiary, baby. You know he's definitely going to find the best rappers and singers for entertainment. Probably gonna create some dance routines for him and everything. He's definitely gonna have the best drugs. He'll probably have pink cocaine in there. Wherever Diddy lands, it is up. I hope somebody live stream it, because I'll never be invited to one of his parties. I mean, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to invite. I don't want it. But I would like to see how the prison parties go. Would y'all want to see it? We probably don't need to see it. We probably don't need to see it. Anyway, y'all. You could have been anywhere on the planet, but you chose to share this little bit of time with me on my corner of the internet, and I appreciate you. Until next time, be safe, be blessed, be fabulous, and be fearless. Peace.